Hello everyone and welcome to Part 5, Attributes. In this lecture we'll be talking about HTML attributes, which allow us to actually add more information to an HTML tag. And this includes things such as adding a link to another web page or referencing an image. Let's get started on all of this by jumping to the Atom text editor in our browser. Okay, here I am back at the Atom text editor, and I'm still using the basics.html file. You can use whatever HTML file you want. You can also use the Part 5 HTML attributes file that comes with the actual course notes. Here I'm just going to be editing basics.html. And we're going to need a few things. One thing we'll need is an actual image file when we talk about setting an image inside of our HTML file. And to do that, what you should do is either find on your computer or download, or just use the PNG provided for you in the notes, a .png file. And make sure you save it in the actual same directory that the HTML file you're working with is in. So you can see here, I have this basics.html file that I'm playing around with, and in the exact same directory, I have this PNG picture here, this image file. So let me now close that and show you how we can actually insert an image into our HTML. And the way we do that is with an image tag, and that's going to be img. So I'm just going to click enter here, and you'll notice you get an automatic pop-up that says src and alt, and that stands for source and alternate. And we're going to explain those in just a little bit. First thing is to notice that this is actually a self-closing tag, meaning everything here goes into this one image tag. You don't see, as we've seen before in the past, this closing tag. It just comes in one self-contained tag. So that's called a self-closing tag. And we can actually use this to source an image. So the thing I'll type here in src for the source of the image is just django.png. And then I'm going to do Control S save and then refresh this page, and you'll notice I actually get this image right here. And later on we'll learn about resizing images or squeezing them or stretching them however we want. Right now we're just using the default image size. So you can see here I said image tag, check out the source, django.png, and then an alternate, which we're about to discuss. Something to note here is that if this file is not in the exact same directory as this HTML file, you may need to put in the entire file path. But we'll discuss that much later on when we're talking about Django, when we actually want to link to a specific folder that has all our images and all our documents in it. Right now, we'll keep things simple by keeping the actual image file in the same directory as the HTML file. Let's discuss this ALT or alternate. Basically, what this is for is an alternate thing to display in case you can't find the PNG file. So for example, let's say I type in missing.png. Now if you look at my directory here, I only have django.png. I don't have some picture called missing.png, which means I'll actually have a broken link. So if I refresh this, we see that classic broken link picture. And that basically says, hey, I couldn't find this missing.png, which means it's always a good idea to have something alternate here. So we can say something like, uh-oh, image not found. And we pass that in quotes as a string that will pop up. Now, if I save that and refresh my page, it'll say something like, uh-oh, image not found next to this little broken icon here. So that helps us out because later on when we're doing more advanced websites, I can say something like a little more specific. Missing.png not found. So when I'm debugging my website or checking stuff up, I immediately know, oh, missing.png is not found. But you'll notice if I switch this back to django.png, which is there, and I refresh my website, I don't get that alternate image or alternate text anymore. It does show up the django.png image. And that's really all there is to sourcing an image. So you have the source, src, and the alternate. Let me comment that out and refresh this page. Whoops. Save this, then refresh my page. All right. So we just discussed how to use image tags. The next thing I want to talk about is an A tag, which allows us to actually reference another HTML file or another website. To really show this, however, I will create another HTML file. So I'm going to bring up back my directory and then right-click on whatever folder I'm working on, this project folder. I'll add a new file, and this new file I'm going to call it new page.html. I'll hit enter, And then this new page.html, I'll start typing HTML, hit enter so I get all of that extra stuff, and then here on the body I'm just going to write a header or heading 1 that says this is the new page. Save that. So I have two HTML files, basics.html that we've been working with, and this new page.html that has just a single heading in it. And if I copy this full path and put it in my browser, then I get this is the new page. Great. So what I want to do is try to link this new page.html into my original basics.html page. So let's do that. I'll come back to basics.html, and to do this I'm going to use an A tag, which is just an anchor tag. And this is going to allow me to pass in a reference there, an href. And I will pass in the reference to this actual new page.html file. And I will say new page.html. And notice I don't have to pass in right now the full directory path or the full file path to this HTML file because it's in the same directory as my basics.html. If it was a different situation where this was in another folder somewhere else on my computer, I would have to specify with more detail the full file path. But we'll discuss full file paths and how you should actually create those across different operating systems when we talk about Django. Right now we'll keep things simple and make sure everything's in the same directory. Let me save this. So I have my href in my anchor tag, but notice this isn't self-closing. It has its own closing tab, which means I can put stuff in between here. And this is basically going to be the text that is a clickable link. And that's all an anchor tag does. So I can say, click me. I will save this, refresh, and now I have this attributes and this click me. And I can click on click me, and that takes me to the new page. So again, with this anchor tag, we keep a reference here, have the text that we want to show when we say click me, and then click on that, and this is the new page. So that's really all an anchor tag is. Something to note, you can reference things that are not just local on your computer, and that goes for images as well. So let me show you what I mean by that. We can pass in an actual website. So I'll say something like http www.facebook.com, and make sure you have to put in the full file path of HTTP, otherwise this won't work. And now let's change this from click me to something like Facebook. We'll save that, refresh over here, and now I see Facebook. I click on Facebook, and that actually takes me to the Facebook website. And my browser will actually self-correct this to make sure it's secure. So it goes to https www.facebook.com. All right, so that's how you can actually reference websites that are outside of your project folder. You can just pass in the full HTTP or HTTPS file path instead of a local file. And you can actually do this exact same thing for an image tag. So for example, if we see an image here, so I see this image of, let's say, these little triangles. I'm going to open this image in a new tab. Here I have the entire image path. So I'm going to actually just copy this image path, and then instead of Django.png, I'm going to paste in that whole image path. Let's save that and go back to our original website, refresh, and we see here now we have that image. So I'm allowed to basically pass in an outside image, and you can use something like Google Image Search to actually grab a link to an image and then use that as your source instead of having to save stuff locally. Now there'll be times when you definitely want to save stuff locally in case a link ever breaks online. That way you make sure you always have a backup. Or you could just use the source online and then have maybe an alternate link or an alternate text show up. All right, so that's basically it as far as attributes in covering images and anchor tags. We've learned a ton of material to this point, so it's really time that we take a step back, make sure we've truly understood everything, and tackle an assessment exercise. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture where I explain the assessment.